espacio. Oh,
Are you gonna sit here?
no, you can sit there. That's fine. I'm commanding these seats right here. So.
Oh, you're commanding.
Yeah, I'm commanding these seats right here.
Test. Okay, Rodrigo. So the mics are on, Rodrigo? Yeah. Excellent. Good afternoon, folks. How are you? Thanks for coming. And we're getting set up for our live stream broadcast. It'll be on the Nuestra Palabra Facebook page. This is our producer, Rodrigo Bravo. Round of applause for Rodrigo Bravo, please. I am Professor Tony Diaz, a Librotraficante. I'm the director of Nuestra Palabra, Latinos Having Their Say. We want to be your favorite bookstore. What does that mean? Well, that means that we have traveled from Houston to Austin, which was the first city where we organized the signing for DETAINED. And then from there, from Austin, we went to San Antonio. From San Antonio, we went back to Houston, where we're based out of. And then we drove all the way from Houston to El Paso. The next stop on this 5-city tour is going to be in Dallas. And a few things I'd like you to know. One, in this day and age where people think books don't matter, books are really vital. And it really is an honor and pleasure for us to convene at the El Paso Main Library. Round of applause for them to congratulate them on the renovation. That is fantastic. And for folks watching the live stream, we want you to support every library everywhere. And how beautiful a building and how wonderful that a city will dedicate its resources, time, and energy for a place for us to convene. Now, that's the good news. Additionally, there's more good news because we're so proud to also be convening in the Mexican Cultural Center here in El Paso. Round of applause for them. It's a beautiful facility. Now, coming from Houston, Texas, I'm a little jealous. We don't have a facility dedicated strictly to Latino arts and culture at this time, believe it or not. We've got community centers. So shout out to MACC, Multicultural Education Council for the Arts. They're a community center. Round of applause for them. Talento Bilingüe in Houston. Thank you. Thank you. They've been around several decades, but it's not a new facility. And they're both repurposed facilities. So it is really beautiful to see brand new structures, updated structures, state-of-the-art, which is key. Our community should have access to beautiful places, and our culture should be in these powerful places as well. Thank you. Thank you very much. I do want to say, you may wonder, why in the world are these poets and writers creating a bookstore? Aren't there bookstores already? Why in the world are these writers and thinkers going out on the road, driving hundreds of miles? Well, we're also called Librotraficantes, believe it or not. The reason we're called Librotraficantes is because back in 2012, Arizona had banned Mexican-American studies. And we in Houston have been working really hard since 1998 to get books into our community. And we knew that that law would make it very difficult for even us in Texas to continue to get books into the community. So we said, we need to do something about it. So we united with a lot of different people, and we organized a 6-city tour to take the books that were banned in the Arizona curriculum all the way back from Houston. We stopped in El Paso, all the way to Tucson. And we started underground libraries. Throughout the Southwest. And also, we supported different community organizations that are still fighting for literature and culture. On top of it, we created alliances that continue to this day. However, the key was to make sure that our community always had access to literature and culture, and to also support the libraries that existed, which is what we've been doing for all this time. The good news is that two high school students sued Arizona and overturned that law eventually. And we also learned, okay, here's how different approaches to take away freedom of speech are working. That was back in 2012. Since then, as you know, there's a lot of different laws that are restricting books. I do want to make one thing clear. Books, like DETAINED, will always be the front lines of the battle for freedom of speech and intellectual freedom. These are vital. However, right now, we're not down to simply book bans. There's a censorship culture. And I mentioned this, these are just facts. I'm not even going to go into the laws that restrict or chill pursuit of these books. In Houston, Texas, there are 17 school districts that overlap the city. Several major school districts no longer have libraries. We've never thought about defunding libraries. The fact that that's even an approach now means that we're no longer just seeing the banning of one book. We're seeing the entire destabilization of the way people get books into their hands. And I'm saying that in a beautiful facility where we're all uniting today. And this is what we need to have. Our youth need to have these books in the classrooms. Our community needs to expect this daily. They need to expect this all the time. And people need to understand that our work is of a high intellectual capacity. That's what this tour is about. Teresa Zubia, she's from El Paso. She's here organizing. Round of applause. She sold you the book earlier. She's from El Paso, so for her it was coming home. Additionally, Lisbeth Atencio is our brand strategist. Right now, remotely, Roxana Guzman is helping us live stream this if you go to the Nuestra Palabra Facebook page. And we've got several other allies and supporters as well. I say all that because as we're driving every single mile, we've racked up hundreds of miles driving around Texas. Every step of the way, we are revealing the barriers in the way of our community getting books. But we're also defying it. And if you look at the headlines, sometimes we feel powerless at moments like this. So this is now a nationally published book from a major New York publisher. You've got friends in Houston that want to support what you're doing. We're in a beautiful facility, which is a house for intellectual legacy. And this all stemmed from a brave young man who was detained in Tornillo. We were out there yesterday morning, right by the facility, And again, Nuestra Palabra wants to be your favorite bookstore, but we're not just here for a product. We're here for a mission. And we will go wherever it takes us. We will go wherever we need to go for some symbolic moment like this. You know what you're witnessing today, and I really want this to land home. I appreciate you coming here, supporting this book, supporting us. This is full circle. Years ago, there was a teen who was scared and detained in the facility in the tent city there in Tornillo. He kept a journal, even though, as you read in the book, he was told not to keep it. He was intimidated. He was scared. He continued to write. And he didn't know, as he says on the first pages of the book, if anyone would ever read it. He wound up reading the teacher, who you'll meet in a little bit. We should give him a round of applause now. Gerardo Iván Morales, who's with us right there. They met, they teamed up, and he continued to inspire him to write. I'm telling you that because all of you do that. The fact that you're here inspires someone to go to a library. The fact that you care about books, people look up to you. They might not say it, because it might not be cool to praise other people, you know. But they see the book in your hand and they're like, huh, maybe I like books. Maybe I'll get a book, you know. And that's huge, because it's very hard to get books published by our community. And additionally, it was so powerful for us that in our humble way, for Nuestra Palabra, to bring this all back full circle, where that voice that was alone wrote it, wound up reaching out to a teacher, wound up reaching out to a publisher, winds up reaching out to us, to you. That's how hard it is to get a book out. That is the amount of work, time, and energy it takes for a book to get into our hands. And there are forces at work that want to make that harder. Pero no nos vamos a dejar, because this is a wonderful thing to exhibit. What you're going to get the chance to hear today is about the book. Thank you for purchasing a copy. Thank you for hosting us here at the MACC, the Paso Public Library. I know you're all going to buy a book. I want you to buy a bunch of books so we can pay for the gas to get back to Houston. Otherwise, we have to find jobs here. You know what I'm saying? But it is beautiful here, so maybe that's okay. At the same time, you're here for those of us that cannot be here. As a Chicano, as a Mexican American, I have citizenship privilege. We actually have our consultant immigration lawyer with us on this trip. That's the era that we're in. And while Rodrigo and I were shooting in front of Tornillo, we wanted to go wild. We're like, let's take all these pictures. And our lawyer would say, you shouldn't shoot that. Don't shoot that. Think about that. And it made me pause and say, you know what? We have the privilege of freedom of speech because we're citizens, but we don't want to complicate the lives of folks that are not fully documented citizens. They may be in the process somewhere, and the line is broken. The line does not work. And just because someone's not a citizen does not mean that they don't have a right to be here. There's many levels of processes. So we as Chicanos, Mexican Americans, United States citizens are standing up for those that are scared to stand up or cannot stand up. The author of the book in 2025 in the United States of America has to use a pseudonym. Their freedom of speech is complicated because there could be ramifications in the current era. It doesn't mean that will always be the case. As Ellen says, someday we look forward to the author being on tour as well. And that's key too. I just want to point out the context of what we're in, because you're giving your time and energy to this moment where books are in danger, but this reveals our power as well. The last thing I'm going to say before I bring Ivan up here and you get to chat about the book. When I was a kid, my parents were migrant workers here in Texas. I didn't have to pick because they moved to Chicago and my father got a job at the railroad. I'm the last of 9. All my brothers and sisters, they didn't start school on time because they were picking in fields. My sister was picking blueberries in 2nd grade. And my father would tell me that the stories about them. When they got to Chicago, my father could allow for me to go to school. We had a permanent home. We had a roof over our head, food on the table. We had a job with benefits. I could go to school, and my dad said, "You're the one that's going to go to school. And I'm going to break my back so you can, use your brain." And at that time, he couldn't go to the PTO. He didn't speak English well. He had to work. He was intimidated. I had to translate for him. So he couldn't do that. However, at that era, he could send me to school. And I would meet the teachers, like the Esperanza met a teacher, that would shape me. And I can name probably at least 3 or 4 individuals who either in middle school, high school, or university handed me a book and said, "You are an intellectual." I mention all that because in this day and age, you've heard about how middle school teachers and librarians have been intimidated. That's old news. In high schools, I just told you, in the 4th largest city in America, libraries are defunded. There are major high schools without a full-time librarian or open library. Universities are being defunded. They're being laid off. They're being fired. I remember in high school, Brother Thomas Johnson. He saw me doing this research paper. I don't know why I got into this research paper. It was Napoleon. We never read books by Latinos. For some reason, it hit me, and I was doing a lot of research. I would skip lunch to do research in the library. This is the south side of Chicago. This was not typical, okay? And I remember one day he called me over and said, "Hey, Antonio, I'm so excited that you're really doing so much work on this report. And I wanted to give you a gift." And he gave me a book on Napoleon. He said, "Because you're a scholar. Because I think you're going to keep going, and you should keep going." And then he said to me, "Put this book in your family library." And it made me pause because I was so proud for him to give me that book, but I was ashamed because I couldn't tell him we didn't have a family library. It's like, oh, great. We're supposed to have a library, I didn't tell him. I'm telling you all this now. Why? Because I'd like to think that I'm so talented that maybe without one of those people there, I still would have earned a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. I still would have written a book. But I got to be honest with myself. If all 3 of those people are not there, I don't know what path my life would have taken. And I'm telling you all that because we have to now take that on ourselves. You will continue to inspire others to buy books, to read books. You will stock your family library. Please buy a copy of the book and give it to someone that didn't hear about it today, couldn't come for different reasons. We will continue underground libraries. Now they exist even more. We can't tell you where some of those are. In Houston, we have underground, overground libraries. That means that we start overground libraries across the street from schools that we can't get into. And we're stocking it with the book Detained. I'm telling you all that then. That is my way to introduce this next young man. When you read the book, it's going to blow you away. It's going to touch your heart. But the book would not exist had he not come to Tornillo to help. And even if he hadn't done it, he helped a lot. But he touched that life, formed this work that now comes back to tell the story in a way never told before. This is a young teenager's view on what's going on at the time. And if folks don't think it matters, my students in Houston, some of them had never read a book fully. They told me this. They call me either Professor Librotraficante or Mr. Hey, Mister, I haven't read the books I was assigned. I read this book. This book blew my mind. And then they got to meet him as well. He's changing lives to this day. He's empowering us with this book. please welcome the talented young man that's given his time and energy to bring Detained to life, Gerardo Iván Morales.
Thank you so much, Tony, for that introduction. I would like to first start and thank Nuestra Palabra. We have been in the best hands with the people who truly have a passion for advocating for human rights, for our community, and Esperanza and I couldn't have asked for a better team of support, and to be with Tony, to be here with everyone from Nuestra Palabra throughout this Detained tour has truly been an honor, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts. We've been working together in all those cities, and we still have another city, but he comes out with a lot of animo every time. Just when I'm like, I think we've exhausted him. I think he's going to be too tired to continue. He keeps going. And I've had the privilege of reading the book, but hearing some of the behind the scenes. So I'd like to start maybe by talking about some of the behind the scenes material that people don't hear, because you didn't know how to get a book published. It's hard to get a book published, you know? Did you have any clues on how to reach out to a New York publisher to get this together?
No. So this journey honestly has been a long journey, but it has been a very rewarding journey because it's gotten Detained out into the world for us to release it so everyone can hear Esperanza's story. So I want to give you guys a little bit of the behind the scenes and let you know how this book came to be. So this book is a direct translation of Esperanza's composition notebook. He's here with us through his composition notebook. So this is the composition notebook he wrote in while being detained. Inside, he wrote the most powerful poem, Somos Inmigrantes, We Are Immigrants, that truly captures the experience of immigrants and the resilience. And so when I read it, when I had the honor of reading it, it brought me to tears. Like, this was powerful stuff. I read it myself. I read the poem. He called it because words are powerful, and you have such a natural talent. Continue writing, continue sharing your story, write about your journey to the United States, write about your time being detained. And one day, your words will change the world. I really felt like that poem captured the immigrant experience, and anyone that would read that poem could relate. And that's a powerful gift to have at 14 years old. And so that's all I told him when I had the honor of meeting him. I went down to Tornillo in the first place because when I found out about the kids in cages and the family separations, and we saw the images online of the Texas tent city, I was appalled. Like, this was horrific that this was the reality happening in the United States. And so that was my call to take action. I needed to find a way how I could get involved, what I could do to be a part of this movement to give these children the tools and the knowledge they need and empower them in this horrific situation that they were currently in. And they ended up teaching me. Like, my life was completely changed after experiencing that time, because these children had gone through horrific trauma. They were fleeing poverty. They were fleeing gang violence. I mean, they were seeking asylum in the United States, asylum, safety, refuge, right? And so when I had the opportunity of meeting Esperanza and I saw his talent, I was completely moved. It was a very powerful gift that he had, and I was sure that it was gonna, one day be heard. I don't know how, I don't know what was gonna come of it, but I just told him that. And he surprised me. Like, he continued writing every day. Let me give you guys a little bit of what he wrote in here that was kind of funny. He's talking about a time where they were cooking chickens because that was the only meal that they had on the way to the United States, right? And so he writes, para echar las gallinas que estaban cocinando, bueno, mañana sigo, ya tengo sueño, sorry, bye. So he was writing about this experience, and then he's like, well, I'm tired, I'll continue tomorrow, sorry, bye. And his personality shined in this story, in his story about his experience. And when I saw it, I mean, you see his handwriting, you see the different colors that he used. He has sad faces. Later on, if you guys want to come up, or I'll show you guys when we're an up close look, but I mean, he wrote his entire life story here, and that was the most surreal experience when he wrote it. I was like, wow. When he showed it to me while we were in Tornillo, and he came up to me super excited, like, look, read this. I mean, it starts out with, esto que yo escribo en este cuaderno es para que conozcan mi historia. This is what I write in this journal is so that you can know my story. Yo cuento mi historia de cuando yo vine de Honduras, pero saben que tienen el privilegio de saber toda mi historia. So I'm telling you my story from when I came from Honduras, but know that you have the privilege to know my entire story. And so he wrote this not knowing who was going to read it. He wrote it in a time of trauma. And that is something that was very admirable. I was in complete awe that these children, while they're detained in this situation where Esperanza was detained for 5 months as a form of prevention through deterrence. The longer we keep these children in these facilities, hopefully less will come. But the data doesn't represent that. Every year, hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors come seeking asylum to the United States, and no one knows their story until today, until we have now this first memoir written by a child while he was detained. And so years later, when he was an adult, we ran into each other, and I told him, I said, I still think about that poem that you wrote. I still think about your journal that you had while you were writing in, while you were detained. Like, that was such a powerful story. And I asked him for his permission to translate his poem into English. And I said, look, I have no idea how to publish a book. I've never done it, but your story is larger than me, and it's a story that can touch the lives of so many and give them hope and give them the reality of what's going on at the border. And so I asked him for his permission, and right away he was game. He was on board. He was said, yes, I am excited. I want to give a voice to the thousands of children that are being detained currently who are silenced. And so he was on board, and I said, look, I have no idea how to publish a book, but we're gonna put it in God's hands, and we're gonna see where we can go, where we can find the largest possible platform so that we can hopefully get the largest possible people reading the story, because the mission is unity. All of us coming together in radical solidarity to protect these children and uphold their human dignity while they are in the care and custody of the United States. And I think that we can all agree. I think that that's kind of a universal thing that anyone can agree that children must be protected. And so how do we do that? And I think the first step is by telling their stories, by telling the story of Esperanza's time being detained. And so, I went to our good old friend Google. How do you publish a book? Self-publish, or you can go through a publisher. I wasn't going to self-publish. I don't know how to do that. So I went, how do you go through a publisher? Then it was like, you need a literary agent. How do you get a literary agent? You need a query then. What is a query? How do you write a query? I was going through this entire journey, learning and putting, my research skills into test and figuring out how I could query agents and who I can get it. And we got representation from one of the best literary agencies in New York City. And that to me was the first moment of there's people out there who see this story and they are passionate. And our agent, she's from Uruguay, and her name is Adriana, and she has been instrumental in this journey. And when we decided to go with Simon & Schuster, it was because our editor, her name is Michelle Herrera Mulligan. She's a Chicana. She's from El Paso. She was born here. And so she grew up with immigrants. Her parents were immigrants. She's a daughter of immigrants. And so her being with Simon & Schuster, she's opened up her own imprint, Primero, Sueño, that is focused on telling our stories to the community, giving representation to Latinos, Latinas, and the Latinx community. And we couldn't have been in the better hands. It was like every step of the way, from our literary agent to our publisher with Simon & Schuster, to our publicist, who was also from Mexico, Maria, and then that led us to Nuestra Palabra with Tony. And I think that each person that has been a part of this journey has been so instrumental in this story getting out to the world and giving Esperanza that representation. And so we are completely grateful for every person. We're blessed for every person that has been a part of this journey, but it was a long journey. And I do want to say something real quick. This book was supposed to come out last year, and it would have looked a lot different. So originally, you were going to see his face. It was going to be a picture with Esperanza as a child. We had pictures throughout of Esperanza as a child. And we had a picture of me and him when we reunited when he was 18 and I was holding his son. And so that all changed at the end of last year. And because of the current political climate that we're in, and because Simon & Schuster's lawyers were really protecting and taking care of Esperanza, it was best to just keep him anonymous for now. But he's very much a part of this tour with us. He's here with us through his writing, through his story, with his composition notebook, and he'll be narrating the Spanish version that will be coming out. So if you guys stay tuned, August 19th, the Spanish version will come out. And that version, in my opinion, is going to be even more powerful because it's in its authentic language, and you'll get to hear him narrate it in the audiobook. So you'll see Esperanza tell his life story. And so we're really grateful and thankful to be here. And we thank you guys for your time and for taking the time to come out here today.
That's so exciting. And I do want to point out to folks a few things. One, so this charla is also serving the purpose for schools to use this as a basis for bringing the work into universities first. Hopefully it will trickle down. Folks can go to nuestrapalabra.org. We archive these videos. If you go to our YouTube page, that's strictly for archive. We do promotions through Facebook, but we've got several professors. I say all that because essentially the book's very, very essential. It's essential. It's a young voice. It is that exact journal. So we don't want people to be to think because of the simplicity that is not intellectually profound. It's going to touch your heart. Academically, though, in Austin we had 3 PhDs, 3 professors talk about the work. In San Antonio we had 3 professors. In Houston we had 6 PhDs to give you the veracity and profundity of the academic side. So that's there for people to go to the videos, and they can use it in cultural centers as well. But I really want to bring home this notion that we're in an important moment, and if one person is not there, it won't happen. So for example, Esperanza had to write it. You had to be the teacher. And in the book, the moment that Dee meets Ivan is powerful, especially because no one was speaking Spanish to the kids. And they were completely confused, which to me sounds like something basic that would have been attended to. On top of that, I do want to focus on the publishing side. To find a Latina literary agent is like finding one unicorn. He has a herd of unicorns helping him, okay? Michelle Mulligan Herrera is a Chicana who we met as a writer, and we hosted her in Houston at Nuestra Palabra. She now is acquiring books like that. Maria Mann is in Mexico, a brilliant publicist. You don't find that team anywhere else. And additionally, you should know that a lot of New York publishers, Simon & Schuster is one of the 5 biggest publishers in the world. In the world. However, no conocen Texas. That's why you don't see a lot of books coming through Texas. So we said, you have to come to Texas. This is vital. And they teamed up with us in every of those ways. So I just want to make it clear that he really struck lightning con ese corazón, esa fe, but destiny is on your side. I do want to talk about the fact that we are in El Paso, Tornillo. We drove to Tornillo. So me and Rodrigo and our lawyer. By the way, I actually want to point out, if you do have questions, I'm going to ask Licenciada Carolina, Abogada Carolina, to pass up. She's making a face at me. This is Carolina, our volunteer, is going to pass out index cards. For the sake of time, you can write down your questions. We want to get to as many as possible. If they're redundant, I'll try and get them together. And we may have other shows we can talk about those. And it's going to bring up topics to address. But yesterday, Rodrigo and I and Clarissa drove to Tornillo to see the facility. Rodrigo was able to look on Google Maps and compare. His assessment was that where the tent city was, there's now permanent structures. There's nothing that talks about that moment. There is a historical marker about the bridge, and it is still a functioning immigration facility, obviously as an entry point for that bridge. I was moved to be in front of it. We took pictures, we put some of the wristbands, we put some of the bands, the bracelets symbolic of what the students wear. We put one on the poles, one on the fences. Just for the folks watching, we did not deface any public property. We did not make any permanent damage. We followed all laws and all rules, so we followed all the rules. But we took photographs as well that were very touching to us. I want to ask.
Can I share what Diaz Esperanza said about that?
Please, and I want to know what your thoughts are of coming full circle.
So I had the opportunity of seeing the pictures yesterday. We came into El Paso today. So I flew in today and I shared those pictures with Diaz Esperanza. And I want to share with you guys what he wrote about it because it was very powerful. So give me 1 second. So after seeing the pictures that Tony took in front of Tornillo, he responded. Una parte de mí volvió a ese lugar. Es muy profundo para mí. A part of me went back to that place. It is very profound for me. And so this is something that lives with him forever. This experience in Tornillo is with him forever. And so thank you, Tony. Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, Clarissa. Thank you for going out to Tornillo, to the place where it all started, and to sharing those images because they affected and impacted Diaz Esperanza in a profound way. So thank you.
No, thank you for sharing that. That really is powerful, and it speaks to what you say in the book. Together we are stronger, and it is significant for us to play a role in that. I also would like to focus on the fact that it did take you to be that person. I want to make clear, Ivan is an intellectual. He's got a bachelor's degree. He's pursuing a master's degree. I have no doubt he'll be a PhD soon as well. But we shouldn't take for granted that the facility to do that research is because he is very smart and knows how to navigate all that. Can you tell folks a little bit about your educational preparation?
Definitely. So I think when it comes to higher education, it's a journey. And as an immigrant, it's even more of a hard journey. And so for me, I moved to the United States when I was 5. So I was 5 years old, I learned English. English is my second language. And I very much felt American. I was part of this country. I went through kindergarten through 12th grade. And in my senior year of high school, I graduated at the top of my class. And my dream was to go to a 4-year college. That was the plan. That's what all my friends were doing. I was living in Arizona at the time, and that wasn't my reality. Like, I could not go to a 4-year college. I could not afford it because Arizona at the time, even though I am a DACA recipient, they decided they weren't going to give in-state tuition to DACA recipients. So that made me wanting to go to the University of Arizona, which would have been $7,000, $8,000 for the year, a $60,000 for the year. So I couldn't continue higher education. And that was really hard for me. That was really, really hard for me, having to drop out of school, having to work full time, having to find ways so that I could even afford going to school. And now that I look back on it, I'm really grateful for my journey. And so I think that everything in my life and everything in life happens for a reason. And we may not know it exactly then, but looking back now, I understand my path was supposed to be a little longer. And so my desire for a 4-year journey turned into a 10-year journey pursuing higher education. And that's what brought me to Texas. I came to St. Mary's University in San Antonio, Texas, because they gave me a full ride. I got a full ride, I could be a full-time student, and that was a dream come true. And so for me, that was something that I wanted. I wanted to pursue a higher education, but at the time, I was all these different majors. I started out as business, I did biology, I did marketing, I did different majors, but I still didn't know exactly where I wanted to end up. And then after my 6 months inside of the Child Detention Center, my life was changed in the most meaningful way. I took over their religious service. So every Sunday they would have a church from Dallas fly out, and they would give these children a service, a Sunday service where they would have a pastor read some Bible verses, worship. And this Sunday for them was sacred. It was their sacred space because they didn't have anything except that immense faith in God. Like, these children believed in God. That was the one thing that brought them here, that they had with them, that no one could take away, that faith. And so that Sunday for them was their sacred time, and they would pray and they would cry and they would sing and they would worship. But because of everything going on, the church in Dallas stopped coming. They said, we can't go back there. And we were told on a Friday, and it was 2 days until this Sunday, and there was no church service planned for the children. And so they had a morning meeting, and I was in the meeting, and they said, who would want to volunteer and help lead the service? And I raised my hand. I was like, I'll do it. Mind you, I had no experience, never had anything having to do with church in that regard, but I was called to do it. I was really called to be there because I knew how important that day was for the children. And I decided that what better way than create a service for the children by the children. And so I asked them, who wants to volunteer, who wants to open up in prayer, who wants to open up in worship, who wants to share their testimony, who wants to share a Bible verse or a Bible story that has impacted you. And there were so many volunteers. And when they would go up, they'd go up in front of a crowd of 300 children, right? And they would pray with their heart on their sleeves. They would sing, they would talk to each other in ways that they connected. And it was such a beautiful experience. I felt God's presence. I felt God's presence. I saw God through these children. Their faith in God and their hope for a better life and a more dignified life was inspiring. And so I came back from that experience, went back to St. Mary's, and I finished my bachelor's degree in theology. So I was like, okay, theology, this is kind of where I want to be. And while I was pursuing my theology degree, I met one of my professors who was at our San Antonio event for the Detained tour, Dr. Tyler Davis. And again, this goes back on the theme of Tony talking about how important it is to have teachers come into your life and what part they play in your life. So when I met and I had took courses from Dr. Davis, his courses directly influenced my writing of my note in Detained. So as the co-author of Detained, I only have a note in the book. Like, this is Diaz Esperanza's story. I'm like the last 5 pages. I am a witness. He saw me. You'll meet me through him when he meets me on Friday the 13th in Alpha 13. But it's his story. Like, this was me advocating for him to have his story. I just have a note at the end. And my note is a call for us to join in radical solidarity with our actions and our deeds to make change. And I think that was all because of the courses that I took with Dr. Davis and his influence directly on me. And I credit that to him. I say that thanks to him and his courses challenging my way of thinking, I wrote my note in Detained. And my passion is moral theology being faith-seeking action. So the faith that I have, how am I living my life in according to that faith within my actions? And so that's why I was called to go be with the children. My faith moved me to go be with the children. And my faith is what led me to get this book published and see what we can do to change policy one day, hopefully.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And I think Carolina has got a few questions, so we will entertain a few questions. And then, of course, we're going to culminate by giving folks a chance to get their book, get it signed, meet with Ivan, get a picture, because ultimately that's really what this is about. And then I'm gonna buy some time as I look through these and ask you about a quick question. In that, what you touched on it right now briefly, so I can read through some of these. What is your ultimate goal with the book right now? I'll tell you ours. Nuestra Palabra. Our goal is to get these books out to people, and it's happening. St. Mary's, Nuestra Palabra is selling them 200 copies of the book because they're going to be using it in classes. My college used the book. Harris County is going to be getting 50 copies for that book, so it's happening. Quickly, what would be your purpose?
The purpose of the story, and I think the main mission of the story, is for radical solidarity, for all of us to come together and protect the children and uphold their human dignity while they're in the care and custody of the United States. I think that as a country that prides itself on the protection of children, they seem to turn a blind eye when it comes to unaccompanied minors seeking asylum. And that's the category we're focusing on. When it comes to immigration, there's so many layers, and it's a very difficult conversation. But when we focus in and we narrow in on specifically what this story is about, this story is about a child from Honduras seeking asylum in the United States. And so what does it mean for us to be in radical solidarity? We can't just say we're here for you, Esperanza. It means we must unite together, and we must vote for policies that change the way the system is to protect these children, at least while they're in the care and custody of the United States. For starters, no child should ever be put in a perrera or a hielera. And that's the reality, that before they're turned over to Health and Human Services, they are put in these places called the dog kennel, the ice box, the cooler. And then they go to Health and Human Services. And then while they're with Health and Human Services and the Office of Refugee and Resettlement, they need their human dignity to be upheld. Like, that needs to be a top priority. And unfortunately, because there are unqualified personnel who are being left to care for these children, they're adding another layer and another chapter of trauma into their lives. And so we must hold these places accountable, and we must unite so that we can think of a world, or we can create a world, or create a country that doesn't put children in child detention centers. I think that that's sort of the main message, but ultimately this also is a story about hope, Esperanza. I think this is a story that what I most learned from Esperanza directly was that even in the hardest of times, even in the deepest trauma, there is resilience, and that you can overcome anything, and that is the human spirit. I feel like that is our human spirit. We will be knocked down 10, 20, 30,000 times, but we will rise, we will get up. And I think that anyone that reads this going through a hard time will be able to relate to Esperanza in that aspect of, sometimes, life gets really difficult, but we persevere and we continue.
I love that. Now, my producer remotely is telling me that we should stop in 3 minutes, but let me ask you, do you want to do questions and answers for another 12 minutes? Yes? Applaud if we should, or applaud if you want to get to the vote. Yeah? You're a very good audience. Thank you. Okay, we'll do just 12 more minutes at least. My producer right now on remote's going to be yelling at me. Yo voy a aguantar eso por ustedes. But several people wanted to know, what is Esperanza up to now? And we'll try and answer as many as possible. What is Esperanza up to now?
That is the best question. So thank you for everyone asking that. So I don't want to spoil too much because there is an epilogue. So the epilogue was written by Esperanza as an adult now, and he catches you up on where he is and what he's up to now. But he is 21 now. He has a wife. He has a 3-year-old son. He's a father, and that's his pride and joy. Like him being a father, him getting to raise his son and be with his son is the most rewarding part of his life. And now with the opportunities that this book has brought to his life, giving him that security, that financial security, and that opportunity, he is living the American dream. He is living the American dream, and he is an example of if you can dream it, you can believe it, you can achieve it. And that's exactly what he did. And now he has his story being read. And I think that one of the most beautiful things that happens is when he reads the reviews and he reads what people are commenting, because they've been so incredible and amazing and touching. And he's just truly grateful and feeling really excited. And so I'm excited for you guys to read Detained and get to know everything that he's going through now. So you can catch that in the epilogue.
Folks are welcoming you. They're thanking you. A few folks have asked, how did you handle what you saw?
I think that I still live with it till this day. I think one of the hardest things that you can see is the light in the eyes of a child diminish the moment they are referred to as a bed number. So instead of me addressing you by your name, Gabby, right? So Gabby, I would call you, Cama 12, silencio, Cama 12, reporte. She wasn't Gabby. She became bed number 5. And that was the reality that these children were living. They had name tags with their names, with their picture, with their assigned tent, yet they were called, dehumanized into a bed number. That's who they were. And seeing Diaz Esperanza look down and be like, I'm Cama 12, I'm coming, like you're calling me. It was heartbreaking. And so for me, I made it my mission. I will never, ever, ever forget one of these children's names. Anyone that came up to me and told me their name, I would call them by their name. And that to them meant the world. It meant that I exist, I'm a person. And that was probably one of the most difficult things to see, is just these children being yelled at and being dehumanized, being threatened. And then the stories that they share with you, right? So we're talking about children that are 12, 11, 13, and they're talking about days of starvation on their journeys to the United States. They're talking about witnessing murder. They're talking about things that no child should ever have to endure. And unfortunately, they were robbed of their childhood. They were robbed of their childhood because their home country didn't provide them that security. It endangered them. And so we're now at a place where they're here in the United States and they're fighting for a better and more dignified life. And that is the most powerful thing.
And that touches on another question several people have asked. What were you teaching there? In the book, I think it's pretty clear, but tell folks, fill that in for folks.
So I worked at the detention center as a direct care worker. And as a direct care worker, we were with them 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, no days off until 21 days. And so you can imagine how English-speaking people who were not really getting enough sleep or not enough time had little patience for these children. There was short fuses. There was, I don't have time to listen to you. You got to be quiet. You got to listen, and you got to do what I say. And so, what was the question?
Well, they were wondering, like,
what was I teaching?
They were thinking of you as a teacher, like in a classroom. It wasn't quite the same thing.
Right.
They called you teacher, but you had other duties as well.
So I was a direct care worker. So that was my role there, and I was a direct care worker. And the way that they would refer to the people who were direct care workers is teachers. Teacher, because they didn't even give them their names. So like that was another thing. Like the teachers, they didn't give their names. It wasn't like, hi, I'm Ivan. And I was, hi, I'm Ivan. And so for them, it was Ivan. This is Ivan. And so I was there just as someone who was to be in supervision and direct care with them. I liken my experience to like the foster care system. We have the foster care system, which we all know is so broken and so much negligence and so much horrific things take place. But if one social worker can make that difference in that one child's life and even save that life, then it's worth it. And so I never questioned my time. A lot of people ask me like, well, why did you go? Why were you there for so long? And it was like, I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave these children. I had to stay there, and I had to be an advocate to give them that courage to overcome a lot of the things that were taking place there, because they kept them in the dark. I mean, we're talking about in the middle of the night. They would be awakened, and they'd be like, okay, you gotta go. We gotta pack your bags. You gotta go. And Esperanza didn't even have a chance to say goodbye to his friends, his brothers. And you'll read that he has a really sad goodbye letter where he's like, this is not how I wanted to say goodbye. And so as a direct care worker, I was there with them the longest. And like me, there were so many other direct care workers who were not qualified to take care of children. Like, that's where the problem lies. When we address the problem, we need to have people who can be with children that come from trauma and who are qualified to be in direct care with them.
And in the book, I remember too, this is not to say anything badly about anyone who works there, but I think the fact that you spoke Spanish and could relate to the students went a long way. But there's even one section where I think you were fighting for someone to get an extra box of cornflakes, you know, which seems so simple, but it was such a big deal in there. And I think that's one kind of moment where the culture comes through. A couple more little broader questions. What do you feel as the role of art and creative expression, not just in the telling of these crucial stories, but in creating spaces for persecuted peoples to experience and share their joy, talent, and creative capacity?
I believe art is the most powerful way for a human to channel and express themselves creatively. And so art has that power. Art has the power to move us. We can look at a painting and feel something. You can read a poem, you can read a story and feel something. I mean, reading books is probably one of the greatest things because they transport you. They take you to different places. And so a lot of art is made in trauma. A lot of songs that we love are made from heartbreak, are made from difficult situations. And so as human beings, we express ourselves through art. And Esperanza is an example, and so are the children being detained. They used art to express themselves and to be able to process the trauma they face.
And in the book, when I'm teaching it again at the college level, the book in there, clearly some of my students wrote about how the narrator keeps his sanity, keeps his belief by writing. And again, this is me, Tony. People get nervous of political climate. Tony Diaz, the writer, says that that's what's in danger. That empathy, that capacity, that ability. For some reason, people want to take it away from us. When we get together like this, we inspire and push it. And on that note, I want to give a shout out to this question here. I'm an English high school teacher from Las Vegas, visiting family in El Paso. I was born here. I got approval from my administration to start a Latino leadership club. Fantastic. And upon its success, I can turn it into a class. How can I get a class set for my students? I think they would be great for that class. Oh, stand up. Where's the teacher who wrote this? Stand up, por favorcito.
Thank you.
Round of applause. What's your name?
Alejandro?
Let's stay in touch. So, Librotraficantes and Nuestra Palabra, we're going to get you that class set. Okay, so let's stay in touch with that. Round of applause for you for implementing that.
And thank you so much for the important work that you do. I mean, thank you so much for bringing that to the children and to the students.
And Alejandro, you're doing what he did. You're doing what people did for me. You're changing lives, so thank you very much. There's a few complicated questions on immigration. We have our immigration lawyer consultant with us. There's no easy answers. As far as where things are in now, it's a very complicated process that this poet's opinion, mind you, this is a poet commenting on the immigration service. It's getting even more complicated. And folks need legal representation at this time and support. I'm gonna leave it at that. And I will say there's still children in the system as well that need to be attended to. But that's a very complicated question. And we'll have other shows on that as well. But I do want to end with this last question. I'll take it out first and then hand it off to you. And then we'll all hang out in the foyer in the library, sign books, let you meet Iván in person, get a picture with him. And Here's the last question. How does Nuestra Palabra try to reach the community and engage them in the current political climate in Texas and the U.S.? Thank you for that question. We're a bookstore, but we don't play. We go to the people. We will go wherever it takes us. Probably, for some bookstores it's harder. I'm not hitting on any bookstore. I think what's the name of your bookstore?
My bookstore is called Colorful Chapters Bookstore. It's
Colorful Chapters.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in competition. We need to support you. You're supporting us, right? We need to get books out there. But our job then is to give tools. If you go to our website, people can have access to this book. They can actually get the videos as well. We'll keep bringing authors. We're going back to Houston. We've made friends again in El Paso. We'll be happy to come back. But we want people to get inspired and fired up. I can tell you all the different ways. One way is to put that book in someone's hand, just like a professor over there is doing. That's really it. What do? We put a book in someone's hands, and I have no doubt that that's going to change their perspective and unleash a beautiful vision that we all need. And ultimately, it's a win-win. I don't know why people want to stop the books. It's like, if I know that I can exercise my voice, if I can have an outlet, everybody wins. And I'm not asking for any breaks. We're not asking for breaks. We're asking for fairness. And at the end of the day, I'd like to know that I tried. And if I couldn't get exactly what I wanted, I'd like to think, I was able to go for it. I've got friends that support me. And here's my other vision. I'm going to give the last word to Ivan. Ivan, what are you doing to change the world through art right now?
Well, first I want to add to what you were saying. And so I would like to say that Nuestra Palabra is an active example of what it means to be in radical solidarity with actions and deeds. Because he's not just saying he has solidarity with a community, he goes into the community. Tony is the most passionate advocate I have ever encountered, and his passion is what leads Nuestra Palabra. And anyone and everyone that meets him, that meets his team, they see it. They see his commitment to the community. It is something extremely admirable, and I just feel super grateful to have met Tony. And so thank you for Nuestra Palabra. They are truly doing the work that is necessary to get that representation, to build that community. I mean, this man is the most connected person in Texas. So, I mean, he knows everyone knows him, and anyone and everyone that meets Tony has nothing but incredible things to say. Like the other day I found out that my literary agent, Adriana, and him go way back to like the 2000s, early 2000s. And that's just a testament to his character, his passion, and to Nuestra Palabra. So thank you. Thank you. And so
any parting words before folks get to get their books signed by you? Any last words?
Well, I'd just like to thank all of you. Thank you so much for coming together and for being here. All of you are a part of this movement to get Esperanza's story out there, because representation truly matters, and you're part of this family that we are creating, part of this community. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Round of applause for Ivan. We're going to go out to the library side to get some books signed, and he looks forward to signing your book and taking a picture with you. Gracias. Thank you. You're the best.
But this is a good That's a good question. That's not an idea to do that.